Dreams have always been a source of mystery, stirring curiosity across cultures and centuries. They've captured the imaginations of humanity's greatest minds, from the ancient Egyptians and Aristotle to Nikola Tesla and Mary Shelley, and even the slain Brooklyn rapper, the notorious B.I.G. Whether seen as divine messages, reflections of the subconscious, or blueprints for the future, dreams have played a vital role in shaping art, philosophy, science, and personal ambition. They blur the line between reality and imagination, waking life and sleep, often revealing the truths we struggle to face while awake. Despite centuries of study, from spiritual interpretations to psychological theories, dreams remain elusive, simultaneously intimate and universal, fleeting yet unforgettable. They can frighten, arouse, and inspire us precisely because they are both vividly and hauntingly surreal. We are both the architects of our dreams and the powerless subjects within them, active creators and passive participants in equal measure. I am Michelle.
And this is Shifting Veils, where we talk about the unexplained, possibly paranormal, and always strange. Today, if you haven't guessed it yet, we will be talking about the brain, dreams, and more specifically, lucid dreaming. Our brain is always active, with electrical signals moving through it every moment. Dreams are a natural part of how the brain works. Dreaming should by no means be dismissed simply because it takes place during sleep or seems to defy the logic we rely on when we wake. Rather than being meaningless, dreams represent a different, more elusive form of cognition, a unique mode of thinking shaped by the unconscious mind. Because dreams unfold in solitude sealed off from the world, they become a deeply subjective experience, a private performance for an audience of one. In dreams, we forget that we're lying in bed or even lying down at all. Our eyes are closed, yet we see. Our bodies remain still, yet we move. Walking, running, driving, flying, we remain silent, yet we speak. Holding conversations with loved ones, both living and gone, and with strangers we've never met. We are anchored in the present, yet we drift through time, backward into memory or forward into imagined futures. Though in one place we travel freely to distant cities, long forgotten rooms, or landscapes born entirely from our minds. In the operating theater, during a procedure known as awake brain surgery, surgeons use a pen-like probe to deliver small pulses of electricity directly to the patient's brain. The patient remains conscious and alert, yet feels no pain, because the brain itself has no pain receptors. A small pulse to one region might evoke a vivid childhood memory. Another might conjure the scent of an orange. A different spot may trigger a surge of emotion like sadness, embarrassment, or desire even. Though the cerebral cortex is less than a fifth of an inch thick, it holds much of what defines us. A language and perception, memory and thought. A tiny buzz of electricity across the delicate layer can make patients hear sounds, relive traumatic memories, and feel overwhelming emotion, even slip into a dreamlike state. I'm telling you all of this because it lends to the fact that the neuroscience can say with certainty that dreams originate in the brain, specifically from the brain's own electrical activity. Through science, we have learned that all consciousness is powered by electricity, including dreams. It turns out that the dreaming brain is as active as the waking brain. The electrical intensity measured during certain stages of sleep look almost identical to when we are awake. The amount of energy different regions of your brain burn while dreaming can actually exceed that which they burn when we are awake, especially the emotional and visual centers of the brain. The dreams that we have can achieve an emotional intensity that is not biologically possible in our waking lives. In fundamental ways, we are never more alive than when we are dreaming. And for those of you out there who say that they just do not dream, in reality, we all dream. Some people just do not remember their dreams.
For decades, researchers studying sleep and dreaming focused on only one stage of sleep, the rapid eye movement stage, or REM sleep. But now, through tremendous research, they are finding that dreaming is possible at any stage of sleep, which makes total sense to me because I can be asleep for no more than 5 minutes and I've already had a long and drawn out saga of a dream. I'll wake up and realize I just fell asleep 5 minutes ago, and I've had this cinematic story play across the backs of my eyelids. There's no way I achieved REM that quickly. I actually do not spend much time in REM at all because I have fibromyalgia. In the early sleep labs of the 1970s, long before fibromyalgia had a name, technicians kept noticing the same strange pattern in certain patients. As these patients drifted toward the deeper stages of sleep, their brainwaves suddenly snapped back into an awake rhythm as if someone had quietly shaken them by the shoulder. The body tried to descend into restorative sleep, but the brain kept intruding with sharp bursts of alpha activity that didn't belong there. Night after night, these intrusions shattered the deeper cycles, especially REM sleep, the stage where the nervous system resets its pain pathways, regulates emotion, and restores cognitive clarity. The people who showed this pattern all described the same morning story: waking up exhausted, feeling as if they hadn't slept at all, carrying a heavy ache through their muscles, and struggling to think clearly. At the time, no one connected these sleep abnormalities to the widespread pain that would later define fibromyalgia. But the sleep labs were already recording the disorder's signature long before the medical world gave it a name. As research grew, something became clear. The sleep disruption wasn't just a side effect of pain, it behaved like a root cause. When REM sleep was repeatedly broken by microarousals, the brain lost its nightly chance to recalibrate the systems that dampened pain signals. Immune like cells in the nervous system stayed activated instead of settling down, amplifying pain sensitivity the next day. Emotional regulation faltered, memory and concentration slipped. Even after 8 or 9 hours in bed, the body woke up unrefreshed, as if the night had been spent hovering on the surface of sleep without ever sinking into its depths. This is why some doctors, especially those trained in sleep medicine, look at fibromyalgia and see a sleep disorder hiding inside a pain disorder. They see that the sleep abnormalities often appear before the pain does. They see that the REM disruption is measurable and consistent. They see that when sleep architecture improves, the pain often softens, the fog lifts, and the body begins to function more normally. From that perspective, the logic is simple. If the nightly neurological reset is broken, the entire system begins to misfire, and the symptoms we call fibromyalgia emerge from that disruption. Official classifications haven't caught up to this view because fibromyalgia sits at the crossroads of rheumatology and neurology, psychiatry, and sleep medicine. But in the quiet hours of the night, where the disorder first reveals itself, the story is clearer. The brain tries to descend into REM sleep, the place where healing and regulation happen, and something keeps pulling it back toward wakefulness. The result is a body that never fully repairs, a nervous system that never fully resets, and a person who wakes each morning already depleted, but holding a handful of dreams they had through the night regardless of the lack of REM sleep. We've touched on brain activity in regards to dreaming, but let's talk about lucid dreaming.
Paprika is a 2006 renowned psychological thriller anime centered on technology that enables therapists to enter and record patients' dreams. It explores the blurring lines between conscious reality and subconscious dreams, often featuring dream sharing and lucid navigation of nightmares. What makes Paprika so compelling is the way it treats dreams not as random noise, but as landscapes with their own logic, places where identity stretches, symbols collide, and the subconscious speaks in its native language. That's the same territory lucid dreaming occupies. When you become aware inside a dream, you're stepping into that shifting world with your eyes open, navigating it the way Paprika moves through other people's nightmares, not by overpowering them, but by understanding the rules beneath the chaos. Lucid dreaming, in that sense, isn't just about control, it's about recognition. It's the moment you realize the dream is built from your own memories, fears, desires, and half buried truths. And suddenly you can walk through it with intention. You can follow the imagery instead of being swept away by it. You can ask the dream what it's trying to show you. And like in Paprika, that awareness blurs the line between inner and outer worlds. The dream becomes a mirror, a message, or a map, a place where the subconscious stops whispering and starts speaking clearly, if only for a moment. By definition, lucid dreaming is the experience of dreaming and knowing you are in a dream. When talked about, this seems more mystical than real, like a dual consciousness that has one foot in the vivid, illogical dreamscape and the other foot firmly planted in insight that you, the dreamer, have. You essentially are both the creator and the actor in this dream world. In some cases, lucid dreamers are able to take lucid dreaming a step further and control the action within the dream, a type of dream navigation, basically. And while it all seems mystical more than real, a doctor by the name of Keith Hearn, his team, and modern science went so far as to prove that lucid dreaming does happen within the brain. 4 decades ago, Hearn was conducting a study in his sleep lab with a test subject. A certain code had been worked out between him and the subject. A signal was developed that the dreamer could send when he began having a lucid dream. The paralysis we experience while sleeping only allows eye movement, so it was with his eyes that he needed to signal. He needed to make direct left and right movements with his eyes, different from the fast and sometimes erratic movements that come from REM. During this session, slashing up and down strokes that signified those purposeful eye movements would appear on the scrolling chart paper, and it would send seismic shockwaves in the neuroscience community. It was the first time someone had signaled to another person in real time while dreaming. It proved that it was possible to be awake inside of a dream. Hearn published his findings. His work was peer-reviewed, contested, and accepted reluctantly after other researchers validated and expanded on his work with lucid dreaming tests of their own, using the same left right eye signals Hearn introduced. These signals have become the gold standard for lucid dream research around the world. Left right in a sleep lab means I am lucid dreaming.
I had a sleep lab a couple months ago. I still haven't got the results of it, but I so wanted to dream because I was like, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do the eye movement thing and see if they catch it. Because a lot of times when I'm dreaming, I have lucid dreams, and I wasn't there at the sleep lab for that purpose. But I just thought, oh, it might be fun,
Yeah, that would be
to
cool.
let's see if these people know the sign.
Yeah.
See if they get me signaling to them. But it didn't happen. I didn't dream. In the past 4 decades, since Hearn's findings, the scientific understanding of lucid dreaming has expanded and is a massive field in science today. Most people say they've had a spontaneous lucid dream at least once in their life, and about 1 in 5 say it happens to them about once a month. It seems to happen more often in women than in men, and it's especially common in kids, but tends to fade as we get older. Lucid dreaming feels like your mind has slipped into a whole new space, a kind of in-between state where you're dreaming, but you know you're dreaming. It's like being awake inside of a dream. During ordinary dreams, the default mode network, or DMN, is activated in our brain, and the executive network is shut down. Since the rational reasoning and skeptical parts of the brain are largely inactive during sleep, we typically accept the bizarre and illogical nature of dreams without question. As a result, we're not troubled by the unreality of dream narratives and often lack the awareness that we're dreaming, allowing us to fully immerse ourselves in the dream experience. In lucid dreaming, however, this suspension of disbelief is disrupted. Lucid dreamers frequently report a pivotal moment when something within the dream, often an impossibility or a logical inconsistency, strikes them as so unrealistic that they suddenly realize they must be dreaming. Science admits that it doesn't necessarily understand what causes this sudden clarity while dreaming. Brain imaging suggests that the executive network may be partially switched back on during lucid dreaming. At present, lucid dreaming is primarily experienced by a limited subset of individuals capable of achieving awareness during sleep. They are an amazing mental feat, but they seem to be fragile and are not always accessible. Despite the heightened awareness that comes with lucid dreaming, the body continues to respond as if the experiences are real, just as it does in regular dreams. When lucid dreamers hold their breath within a dream, their bodies exhibit central apnea. Dreaming of sexual activity leads to noticeably quicker breathing. In essence, lucidity emerges within a typical dreamscape, but this awareness of dreaming does not blunt the body's physiological reactions to the dream's narrative. This duality allows lucid dreamers to maintain cognitive insight into the dream state while simultaneously experiencing the vivid physiological immersion as if the events were real. Throughout history, lucid dreaming has been regarded as a powerful tool for spiritual growth, a gateway to enlightenment and the divine. Many religious and mystical traditions have viewed it not merely as a curiosity of sleep, but as a sacred practice. In Buddhism, for example, the Tibetan discipline of dream yoga uses lucid dreaming as a means of cultivating awareness and gaining deeper spiritual insight. Across traditions, lucid dreaming has been treated as a kind of inner pilgrimage, a deliberate crossing into the subtle layers of consciousness where symbols, memory, and intuition mingle. In many indigenous cultures, dreams are understood as a place where the soul travels freely, gathering insight or warning from realms that waking language can barely describe. Ancient Greek seekers once slept in the temples of Asclepius, hoping that a god or a vision would meet them halfway, offering healing through the clarity of a dream they could witness as it unfolded. Even today, modern practitioners describe lucidity as a moment when the mind becomes both observer and participant, aware enough to steer, humble enough to listen. It's a state where the subconscious speaks in images instead of sentences, and the dreamer learns to read those images like a map. And that's where things get interesting, because the meaning of those maps isn't fixed. It shifts with culture, with belief, with the dreamer's own history. Some see lucidity as a psychological tool, others see it as a spiritual doorway. Many experience it as both. Which brings me to something I've been wondering, and I'd love to hear your take on this, Isaiah. Do you think lucid dreams are something we enter or something that's been waiting for us all along, like a room in the house of the mind we just don't visit often?
I guess my take on lucid dreaming is kind of the way it's always been for me, and I always believed, especially when I used to lucid dream and have very vivid dreams, I used to always just believe it was a whole nother reality. So I don't know how that would be categorized. Maybe it's always just there waiting for you.
I feel like, I don't know, I don't know if it makes sense or if it may even be the same thing you're saying, but I feel like I feel like every dream has the potential to be that, but we don't always break through what is not allowing us to for it, allowing it to be that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So maybe it is always there, like you said. It's just waiting for us to
Well, I
enter
think
into
that's
it.
kind of where the veil comes in. Like I feel like there is a thin membrane between the two worlds. If it is a different reality, then there's a membrane that, like you said, is keeping us from actually touching that. Um,
Yeah.
and I feel like when we are dreaming normally, that it can't. This is just all my own opinion. This isn't like studied or anything. Um, I feel like in a normal dream, it would be just you viewing other lives or other worlds or other realities and stuff like that, timelines, whatever direction you want to take them. And lucid dreams is where you kind of start to push on that membrane and you start to have more influence. I don't I would agree that we don't ever really push through or break through that,
Yeah.
but I feel like that's kind of what I feel like it's always something I've experienced because I've personally have had dreams night after night, like nights in a row where it was like I was just living a different life, but each of those nights I was waking up into the same other life.
Mm-hmm.
It was like I would it was almost like I went to sleep and I woke back up and I was living this life and then I went back to sleep and I went came back to this life and I went back to sleep and I went back into that life. It was almost like a wave pattern sort of thing.
Yeah.
Um, I'm getting kind of rambly, but that's kind of my thought process with that.
I feel like it's kind of like an awareness that, for me, I feel like it's, well, I think even science had said that there's something in the dream at some point where the dreamer is like, okay, this has to be a dream because this is ridiculous. So it becomes an awareness that, like a recognition. But the thing is, for me, sometimes I've become aware that it is a dream before anything ridiculous actually happens. It's
Hmm.
just, um, it's kind of like, oh, I'm doing it again. you know,
Right. Yeah. Right.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm here again. Like it's this familiar place, but not forgotten wing of my consciousness. Um, I don't know. I experience lucidity very often. I could probably say weekly, if not several times a week, and at times every night. I mean, it's
Hmm.
even been that much before. And it's been, I think I've been doing this since I was having lucid dreams since I was a teenager. I don't remember
Hmm.
doing it when I was a child. I remember having vivid and wild dreams as a child, but I don't remember having lucid dreams as a child. Um,
It was probably similar for me, having lucid dreams when I was a teenager.
mm,
It started back then. It it petered off like whenever I was around when I got married, and that's when I started like losing sleep. No, not right immediately in the marriage, but like later on in the marriage, halfway down to like end of the marriage, like I started losing sleep. Like it was unhealthy amounts of sleep that I was losing. And even now, my body keeps that habit where, like, I'm waking up every hour and a half to 2 hours, and a good night of sleep is like 3.5 to 4 hours. And
uninterrupted.
right, yeah,
Yeah.
uninterrupted. And it's there's a lot of reasons that it could be happening, whether it be biological or psychological. But I feel like a lot of it, and that I'm obviously not a registered doctor or nurse, but I feel like a lot of it is just psychological.
Possibly. I know where mine comes from. It's
Right.
fibromyalgia, but yeah. Um, but some of it might be psychological too. I don't have good sleep hygiene at all.
Hmm.
That's not saying I don't shower, people. I shower. I don't have good sleep hygiene in the way that I lay down with my phone and I scroll until I'm absolutely passing out, and that's just not a good habit.
Hmm.
But um, in the end, lucid dreaming remains one of the oldest invitations humanity has ever received. A reminder that consciousness doesn't end when the body sleeps. It stretches, it wanders, it listens. Across centuries and cultures, people have stepped into their dreams not to escape the waking world, but to understand it more deeply, to meet themselves in symbolic form, to touch something vast and wordless. Maybe that's why these practices endure, not because they promise mastery over the dream, but because they offer a moment of clarity within it, a chance to witness the mind unbound, to walk through its hidden rooms with intention, and to return carrying something quietly transformative, a message, a question, a truth you weren't ready to hear until the dream said it first.